The year is 2077, and the sky is burning. Nuclear bombs are raining down like judgment from above. Sirens screaming in your ears as the world you knew ends in fire and ash. Your only chance is one of those shiny Vault-Tec shelters promising safety, comfort, and a bright future underground. You pile in with the others. The massive door slams shut, and for a moment you breathe easy, safe at last. Right, wrong. Vault-Tec never cared about saving lives. They were running the sickest social experiments in human history, and you just volunteered as their lab rat. But which vault was the absolute worst? Let's ease in with the ones that were only mildly nightmarish before we plunge into the true horrors. Vault 13 starts off looking like one of the better deals. Built as a control vault with solid construction, clean water systems, and enough supplies for 1,000 people to last decades. No crazy experiments on paper, just survive and thrive underground. But even the good ones had their twists. The water chip fails early, forcing desperate runs to the irradiated wasteland above. Radiation leaks in mutations creep through the population, and isolation breeds paranoia. You might make it out as a legendary vault dweller, but most residents faced slow starvation, infighting, or the horror of watching their home slowly die. Still, compared to what's coming, it's practically a resort. At least you had a fighting chance. Next up, Vault 81 in the Commonwealth. On the surface, it was designed as a medical research facility with two populations, the unaware residents living normal lives and a secret group of scientists running tests. But something rare happened. Here the scientists actually grew a conscience when the deadly disease experiments were about to be released into the air supply. One of them sabotaged the plan. The vaults split, with the lower levels sealed off, and the main population lived in relative peace for centuries. Sure, there are still mole rats, some lingering diseases, and the occasional ethical horror show in the labs, but you could actually build a life here. Kids went to school, people formed communities, and help was available if you got sick. It's one of the few vaults where humanity didn't completely collapse, a rare win for Vault-Tec's victims. Now things start getting darker. Vault 92 was marketed as a paradise for musicians and artists. Talented souls preserved to keep culture alive after the bombs. Soft lighting, perfect acoustics, and endless inspiration. What they didn't tell you was the real experiment. Subliminal white noise pumped through the sound systems to test psychological manipulation. At first, it boosted creativity. Then, it twisted minds. Paranoia set in, aggression boiled over, and the once harmonious artists turned into violent lunatics. You'd hear beautiful symphonies echoing down the halls one day, only to stumble on a composer smashing his violin over a colleague's skull the next. The noise never stopped, driving everyone slowly insane. Even 200 years later, the vault is filled with feral, music-obsessed ghouls who'll serenade you right before they tear you apart. Creativity is a gift until Vault-Tec weaponizes it. Vault 75 takes the parental nightmare to new levels. This one was built under a school in the Commonwealth, marketed as a haven for families. But the experiment was pure eugenics horror. The plan: harvest the best genetic material from the children, raise them to peak physical perfection through brutal training and experiments, then euthanize the parents once they were no longer useful for breeding. Kids grew up in a sterile, militaristic environment, constantly tested, enhanced, and culled if they didn't meet standards. Imagine being a child told your mom and dad were retired for the greater good, while scientists poked and prodded you like livestock. The vault eventually fell into chaos when the kids rebelled, but the remains are still patrolled by super soldiers and automated systems that see intruders as failed specimens. Vault 75 didn't just kill Hope, it engineered its replacement. Let's talk about Vault 108. The experiment involved cloning and a dying overseer with cancer, meant to study leadership under stress. Instead, the cloning process went haywire, producing dozens of identical, aggressive clones of one man named Gary. The original dwellers didn't stand a chance. Now, the corridors echo with one word, over and over, Gary. Pale, manic figures in tattered jumpsuits swarm from the shadows, wielding pipes and scalpels. They can't speak much beyond variations of their own name, and they hate anything that isn't another Gary. Run out of ammo and you're done. It's like a zombie horde where every zombie has the same face and the same grudge. The vault itself is decaying, flooded sections collapsing, radiation leaking in. Fighting your way through feels less like exploration and more like surviving a fever dream. 1. Gary is creepy. 50. That's a special kind of hell. Vault 16 cranks the psychological torture even higher. Residents lived normally for exactly 10 days. Then the vents hissed open, flooding the entire facility with an invisible psychoactive gas that never stopped pumping. Hallucinations hit, instantly euphoric delusions for some, violent paranoia for others. Friends turned on each other in drug-fueled rages. Guards shot at imaginary threats. Families barricaded doors while screaming at ghosts. 2 centuries later, the gas still lingers. Walk in as a scavenger, and within minutes you're seeing dead loved ones, nightmarish creatures, or your own rotting corpse. Reality dissolves. Some wander out as broken raiders. Most don't wander out at all. Vault 106 doesn't kill you with monsters or guns. It makes your own mind do the job. Vault 87 might be the most physically horrifying. Located near the capital Wasteland, the radiation outside the door alone will melt you in minutes. Thousands of rads per second, blistering skin, liquefying organs. Make it inside anyway and you meet the supermutants, towering, muscle-bound abominations created by the forced evolutionary virus. The vault was a FEV testing ground. Dwellers were injected, their bodies rewritten, cell by cell, bones snapping and growing, skin splitting, minds erased into rage-filled monsters. Survivors patrol with miniguns and rebar clubs that can pulp a person in one swing. Fail the transformation. You become a centaur, slithering, multi-limbed horror that spits acid and drags victims back for more experiments. Vault 87 doesn't experiment on you, it replaces you. Then there's Vault 11, where democracy became a death sentence. The rule was simple. Vote every year for one person to sacrifice, or the vault computer kills everyone. At first, it was tense, but manageable. Pick the troublemaker, keep the peace. But the real experiment was moral erosion. The computer lied. If they'd ever refused to sacrifice anyone, the doors would have opened with praise for valuing human life. Instead, year after year, neighbors voted each other into automated firing squads. When 5 survivors finally learned the truth, the guilt destroyed them. Vault 11 turned everyday people into executioners for nothing. It proved how quickly civilization crumbles when survival demands betrayal. Vault 112 might take the crown for psychological sadism. Pristine on the outside, rows of pods inside, holding bodies in suspended animation. Everyone plugged into tranquility. Laina, perfect 1950s simulation, run by Dr. Stanislaus Brown, who appears as a sadistic little girl named Betty. You can't truly die in the sim, but you feel every bullet, every burning, every drowning. Brown resets the loop whenever he gets bored, forcing endless torment. Become a dog and watch helplessly, realize it's fake. Madness sets in faster. The only escape is triggering the Chinese invasion program. Virtual soldiers gunning everyone down permanently. Death in the sim means death in the pod. Eternal virtual hell or real death. Choose your nightmare. Finally, the one that might be the worst of all. Vault-Tec, a lush underground paradise of green gardens and abundant food. Built to solve world hunger with advanced botany. Scientists grew miracle crops and they accepted a gift from Big Mount. A bioengineered fungus meant to control pests. It jumped to humans. Infection starts with a cough, fever, lungs filling, then death. But the fungus doesn't stop there. It reanimates your body as a spore. Carrier eyes bursting with growths, skin splitting open to spread more spores. The vault is alive, a hostile fungal ecosystem that sees you as fertilizer. One breath and you're coughing. Hours later, you're part of it forever. Beautiful on the outside, a walking nightmare within. So there you have it. From mildly dysfunctional control vaults to fungal apocalypse and virtual torture chambers, Vault-Tec turned humanity's last hope into the ultimate reality show of suffering. Next time the bombs fall and you see that Vault-Tec logo promising salvation, do yourself a favor. Take your chances in the glowing wasteland. At least out there, the monsters don't pretend to be your neighbors. Stay safe, for as safe as you can in the end times.